facing the police every single day.
With reaction, Michael?
Wendy, all of this happened at 10:41. The jurors came back. Unanimous decision, manslaughter, said Michael Drejka shot and killed Markeis McGlockton in front of that Clearwater convenience store, and it was not self-defense, it was manslaughter. This is Michelle Rayner. This is Markeis McGlockton's family attorney. She is flanked behind her by Brittany Jacobs, and also Brittany Jacobs, his girlfriend, and also Michael McGlockton, which is Markeis's father. They just walked out. They're talking right now. If we can go to that other camera and listen into them. My producer can pull that up and let me know.
Once again, we are incredibly thankful and grateful to the prosecution. We are grateful to the jurors of this case that they saw what we saw. And I'm so proud and honored to be able to stand here with Markeis's family. It has been the honor of my life. And so with that, I'm gonna let Michael, and then we'll go from there.
First of all, I just want to give thanks to the state attorney, Jeff and Scott. Those guys did an incredible job. Once again, it's been well over a year since we've been dealing with this matter, and I can safely say my family can rest now. Now we can start putting the pieces back together and move on. So once again, I want to thank the state attorney, Jeff and Scott. I also want to thank Michelle as well. She's a hell of an attorney. Also want to thank the community for sticking by us and been to every rally, doing all the things that they needed to do to help keep us uplifted in this time of grievance that we've been going through. But again, we just want to thank all of you and thank everybody that has been behind us, and please continue to support us because this is still not over. It's not over.
Are you good? Monica? Anyone? Markeisha? Come on, you want to say something? Come on, Keisha, you good? All right. Well, as you know, this has just been a journey for Markeis's family. This has been a journey, and I think that we're all kind of still processing everything. And we understand that with this guilty verdict, it will not bring Markeis back. But I think what this message sends to not only the state of Florida but to the country, that there are moral-minded people that are able to see things for what they are, because people are getting sick and tired of vigilantes going out here killing people with guns and acting like there's no consequence or no recourse, and people are, quite frankly, are tired of black folks dying by the hands of that. And I think that we are seeing that enough is enough. People of all races are saying enough is enough. So we are so grateful and so thankful that the jury got this right. And once again, we just extend our gratitude to the state attorney's office, to Mr. Rosenwasser, Mr. Schaub, to the community that pushed us, to the community that would not rest until there was an arrest, to a community that stood in the gap for this family, even when it looked somewhat hopeless. So we thank y'all so much. If there's any questions, I'll take a few and then we'll go. There are no questions? All right, that's a first. Well, all right. Yes.
The jury came back and didn't understand the terminology. Did that concern you at all, that they didn't even know what the terms were?
I mean, I think that, of course, it's always a concern. And I think as a trial attorney, you're always like, oh, Lord, what is the question going to be? But I think that this kind of goes to the heart of the issue. The self-defense statute, which kind of encompasses a little bit of stand your ground, it's a very complex statute. There are lawyers that don't understand that statute. So, and I was talking to a friend of mine who just had a trial with this same type of issues, and the jury came back in her trial with that question. So, I mean, of course, it's always concerning because you don't know what they're thinking, but I think it shows that there's problems with this statute. There's problems with the way that this statute is written. And so, once again, that's something that we're going to be looking at, just as Markeis's family, of where do we go from here?
What do you think was the key moment or moments where the prosecutors clinched the case?
I think there were so many moments. One, I think the video. I think also during Mr. Rosenwasser's closing, when he began to show the video and to show Michael Drejka's words and how they were so inconsistent, and how what Michael Drejka saw was actually not what happened, and that the concern and the things that that the defense were trying to put up, I think that was the moment. I think people really started to get it. But I heard an interview with the alternate juror, and he said, you know, on the first day, I had already kind of made up my mind that if I had to serve and I had to deliberate, that he would be found guilty. And you know what? I really want to address this. I think that also the jury was able to see through the really desperate and really, I have to say, pitiful and shameful attempts of the defense to criminalize Markeis in his death. So, you know, they kept calling Markeis a weapon. Markeis is a human. He is a human. He's not a weapon. His blackness, his skin does not make him a weapon. And we kept seeing these tropes being weaved in throughout the defense. And it was shameful to see, especially to have a black woman on there doing that. And so I think the jury was able to see that. I think the jury was able to see that you're not going to get to do this. This man is a vigilante. He's the monster. He's the murderer. Markeis was doing what any man would do, protecting his family. Anyone else?
Will this case set the precedent now moving forward to finally maybe get rid of stand your ground law? I know you got the march all through Clearwater trying to get that taken.
I mean, that's always the goal. That's always the goal, you know, and we've talked about it. I know Mr. Crump and I have had conversations about it. You know, it's always the goal to be able to challenge that law because, you know, our position is that it is legalized murder. Our position that it is not a good law. Our position that, you know, you even heard the jury come back like, you know, with elements of people still thought, well, is this a stand your ground case? Is this not a stand your ground case? So, I mean, I think that this kind of reverberates through the state and through Florida and through the nation that, you know, we got to kind of look at this. We got to kind of figure out what's going on with this.
Does that make you mad the sheriff initially didn't charge? Yes,
because he got it wrong. He got it wrong. But guess what? The jury said, we're going to make it right. So if there's no more questions, thank y'all so much. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
McGlockton's family. You've been listening to Markeis McGlockton's family saying they're thankful to the state attorney, the prosecution, as well as the jury, and especially the community who's really supported them through this whole journey. And they said they can finally put this to rest and move on.
You could hear the emotion in their voice that it's finally, you know, time to move on for them. And our Michael Paluska, he was inside the courtroom the whole time while this verdict was read. He was with in that area today. So, Michael, what was the reaction like to just be there?
Lauren, I was sitting right behind Michael Drejka as the verdict was read. I could not see his face, but when I looked to the left and the jurors said guilty of manslaughter, the entire left section of the courtroom that was just filled with all of the family here behind me cheered, they hugged, they kissed. It was not a loud cheer. It was one of those muffled, just kind of relief that they won, relief that what they've been fighting for over the past year since that July 19th shooting took place, that they finally got what they were looking for. There were national marches in the street. There were people coming forward from all over the country trying to get rid of Florida's stand your ground law. If you remember this case, Sheriff Bob Gualtieri, the Pinellas County Sheriff, initially didn't charge Michael Drejka with anything in this, saying that it was a clear-cut case of stand your ground, but that video that we have been showing you guys since July 20th, the day after we got it from the surveillance store, showed how in those final 11 seconds that the prosecution was focusing in on, there was a time when Michael Drejka didn't have to pull his gun and shoot Markeis McGlockton. He had turned and the threat was over. So when he tried to say it was self-defense, the jurors here just didn't buy into it. They went frame by frame in that video and they analyzed it and they discussed it. They discussed at 10:30 tonight, we thought this was going to go even longer. They discussed what the legal definition of a justified shooting was, a justified manslaughter, and about 20 minutes later, jurors came back with guilty. So they felt that the metric for the legal term for justified manslaughter, which is killing someone's life, was not met. So the maximum that we know that Drejka could be penalized in this case is 30 years. But his attorney told us while running to his car earlier today, just 10 minutes ago, that he probably won't get the maximum because he doesn't have a criminal history, a lengthy criminal history as serious as the charge he was just found guilty of. Sentencing, we've just learned, is set for October, and then we'll figure out exactly what the judge says. But you heard the family behind me, and I heard them in court, and it really did feel like a lot of relief for them that they finally got justice for Markeis McGlockton. His girlfriend was there, and he's got some young kids that were born after he died as well. Wendy, Lauren?
All right, Michael, thank you. And of course, we will continue to cover reaction to this very high-profile case and Michael Drejka's guilty verdict of manslaughter. And we will be hearing from Drejka's attorney, John Trevina, coming up in just moments to get his reaction to that guilty verdict. Of course, stay with us here and on all our platforms and on abcactionnews.com.
For a parking space last year. Witnesses were back in court Thursday in Florida's Stand Your Ground trial. Michael Drejka is on trial for what prosecutors argue was the deadly shooting of an unarmed black man during a dispute over a parking space last year. Defense attorneys say Drejka was defending himself. CBS News national correspondent Manuel Bojorquez has the latest.
Just want to talk to you reference today's shooting.
In the taped interview with detectives, Michael Drejka explained the moment he drew his gun after being shoved to the ground by Markeis McGlockton last year during an argument over a handicapped parking spot.
Well, the way I was able to draw it, I couldn't level it with one hand, so I had to eventually try and bring my left around for support. Okay. And he made his step towards me, and that was that. How many steps did he make? Just one step.
But prosecutors say surveillance video from the Clearwater, Florida convenience store in July of last year shows McGlockton, who was unarmed, actually stepped back.
One more step towards me, and I didn't say a word. The gun was already out. Okay, what do you do? Fire a weapon. How many times do you fire one time, sir?
Initially, Drejka was not arrested as the Pinellas County Sheriff determined he was protected by Florida's Stand Your Ground law, which allows a person to use deadly force against a threat with no requirement to retreat. After an investigation, prosecutors decided to charge him with manslaughter. Drejka's attorneys are arguing self-defense.
I didn't know who this strange, suspicious man was.
McGlockton was at the store with his girlfriend Brittany Jacobs and their 3 children. She testified yesterday that she and Drejka got into a heated argument after he saw them park in a handicap spot without a placard.
So I wanted to push him away. I just wanted him to just leave me and my babies alone.
Manuel Bojorquez joins me now from Clearwater, Florida. So, Manny, what is next in the trial? Who will take the stand tomorrow?
Well, the prosecution rested today, and what you can expect really is something similar to what we saw from them on the defense side of this, calling up perhaps a medical examiner to talk about the results there, but also the experts on their side. These are people that they're hoping will tell the jury that Markeis McGlockton maybe acted in a way that put the defendant here under a sense that he was at risk, and that would prop up their argument that this was a shooting that was done in self-defense. The big question, of course, is whether the defense will bring Michael Drejka to the stand to testify in his own defense. That's a big gamble because it would also open him up to aggressive cross-examination.
Well, and there was apparently video shown in court of the defendant, Michael Drejka, reenacting the shooting. What were prosecutors trying to prove by showing that video?
Well, if Michael Drejka does not get on the stand, that was pretty much going to be the only chance for the prosecution to have the jurors hear for themselves what he described to police. In that video, the police asked him, why didn't you call the police to report somebody parking illegally in a handicapped spot? They also asked him about his reaction. And I think what they were trying to do there is to paint some cloud of suspicion in the jurors' minds about whether indeed Michael Drejka was justified in firing that fatal shot.
Well, in addition to Markeis McGlockton's girlfriend, another witness testified in court yesterday. What was his story?
Yeah, this was a man by the name of Richard Kelly who said months before he had gotten into an altercation with Drejka about that same parking spot. He said he parked there, left it running, went inside to get something to drink, and came back out to this confrontation. He testified that Drejka said something to the effect of, I should shoot you, and he said, I'm not afraid to die, go ahead and shoot. And that then Drejka went back to his car. He did not see a firearm, but the prosecution, they're clearly trying to paint a picture of Drejka as the aggressor in these circumstances. Drejka told the detectives all along that really he was just trying to do the right thing, he felt, by telling people that there weren't supposed to be parking in that handicapped spot, and that when he was shoved, as we saw in that videotape, that he reacted in his best interest, which was, of course, his self-defense in his words. But, of course, that is the big question that the jury will eventually have to decide.
All right, Manuel Bojorquez, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The defendant is guilty of manslaughter as charged.
This morning, Michael Drejka is in custody after a jury convicted him of manslaughter late Friday in the death of Markeis McGlockton.
We're thankful that the jury got it right. We're thankful that the jury saw what we saw what everybody saw in that video.
The video of the fatal parking lot confrontation, the key piece of evidence in the 3-day trial.
I submit to you, he's a parking lot vigilante.
Jurors saw this taped interview with detectives where Drejka described the moment he drew his gun after being pushed to the ground by McGlockton. The argument stemming over the misuse of a handicapped parking spot.
He made his step towards me, and that was that.
McGlockton's girlfriend sharing from the stand how Drejka began harassing her as she waited with her children inside a parked car.
I didn't know who this strange, suspicious man was. He was yelling and pointing and telling me where I should park.
It was when McGlockton came out that the incident escalated. Initially, Drejka was not arrested because of Florida's Stand Your Ground law, which allows a person to use deadly force against a threat with no requirement to retreat.
He did what he thought he had to do in the moment, in split-second timing, given that he was attacked.
After more than 6 hours of deliberations, the jury found Drejka guilty.
Although we know that there are some appeal issues, we'll deal with that on the back end. But for right now, the jurors of Pinellas County have spoken, and we respect their decision.
For the family of Markeis McGlockton, the decision brought about much-needed closure.
My family can rest now. Now we can start putting the pieces back together and move on.
The Supreme Court says...
I'm thinking he's coming to do the rest of it. Did you see him with the firearm? No, sir, I didn't see him with anything. Okay, what do you mean the rest of it? Whatever beating was coming after that.
I just wanted this man to just leave me alone, just leave me and my babies alone.
Yes, he's taking his step. Okay. Taking a step, taking his steps towards me. Okay. Was he charging after you? 2 steps running. What happens if I told you that I looked at the video and then no time point does he come running up towards you? He actually takes a step back. I disagree.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH. I am using any video here with under fair use if you have criticism, reporting, teaching, etc. And please donate. I do not make money from YouTube, and there are different ways to donate in the video links. Thanks.